Before we get into the spectating episode, a very common question I see is who are the best legends in ranked? With Mad Maggie and Seer buffs, we saw a major spike in Seer initially. Something I want to analyze with each squad today as we're watching today's video. Something to keep an eye on. But unfortunately, there has been a dip. Well, why? Well, Seer is much better than he was, and here's my current theory why he is dropping. Number 1. Ashe and Alter. If you're asking what are the best legends, these are definitely the higher picks for pushing and getting out of pinches currently. It's the current trend I'm saying. This could change. Seer really only plants, but it could complement the squad. But of course, if you do that, then you're missing a support legend. Next up is the Seer ultimate when floating causes a problem. I think this is probably the biggest nerf I've seen, but it could be mastered through just time and skill. When you float, you're literally frozen in place when you ADS. The solve is to just hip fire. But unfortunately, the most popular gun at the moment is the Peacekeeper. I'm just going to let in that stammer. This means that using the choke is ideal, right? That's what you want to do with the Peacekeeper to get some range out of it. So that's kind of contradictory with Seer in the current meta. Maybe if we're in a different meta, Seer would be better, right? May as well run Sparrow, who gets the movement without having to be in the ultimate, and can ideally use the Peacekeeper in a more unique way. Well, I say unique, but in an easier way. So this is a skill issue for now. Someone will master this ultimate timing, and I think that there's a lot of potential here. Number 3, we have lots of info already in ranked. Usually we know where teams land, right? The end zone, the ultimate will provide lots of value, but most teams are not as aggressive as they once were during the height of Seer meta. People at the end zone just pretty much stay stagnant or find their spot, right? Also, kind of a 3.1 note, his tactical with his silence was way more impactful in the past when it did damage and whenever there was silence for longer. Having tons of tacticals is nice in the ultimate, but if you already got the info, you got the info. And yes, you have increased movement speed, but Ashe was already great anyways, and she's already fantastic for pushing, right? So his pick rate is currently higher than it once was, but will it keep dropping? So let's go ahead and segue to the video. I felt this was really important just to give context as we analyze certain squads. Let's jump in. All right, I know that I'm leaving out discussions on Mad Maggie, and I think I'm going to do that for a separate spectating. That's why I'm focusing on Seer, because he had a higher spike in his pick rate. Now, you saw that this is going to be more of a pred lobby on Plat 1. So we're going to see a quote-unquote higher caliber lobby, considering that was a lot of preds. Being Plat 1 or Diamond this early on means that you're going to get some pretty, I guess you could say, intense lobbies comparatively. Now the goal is, I can't throw myself off the map like I used to, or with teammates it's not as easy because you kind of spawn, you know, near a point. So the goal here is that we are going to play out best we can and provide tips and what usually happens to the flow of the lobby. And if my voice sounds a little strange, the infection is gone. I'm perfectly fine. It's just I got this like still like weird tingling sensation. So if I mute afterwards, you know why. I'm still just coughing and it's really, really annoying. All right, so let's get into it. See, you see a lot of Seer, you see a lot of Maggie, and Ashe is just everywhere. It's expected. So I'm not saying that the pick rate is going to just be astronomically low. I just don't think that it'll be the height of like Ashe, like the #1 pick. I think that Seer is definitely a lot more fun and balanced compared to what he once was, for sure. Now the goal here is really just to get your guns. I don't recommend hitting recon right off the rip because you know where all the teams are. You look, boom, boom, boom. Oh, that's where all the teams. That's where I was mentioning where Seer may not provide as much value. I think the 30-30 is still pretty strong. I've oddly been gravitating towards the longbow, but I know the longbow is not necessarily meta. It's still really good for poke, and I find it very strong, but I usually find some sort of DMR, something around there, and then like a shotgun. Peacekeeper pretty much is what everyone's running for the most part. So G7, this is not a bad loadout, so we'll rock G7 and Mozambique. At this point, whenever you're picking guns and how fast these, like, you know, the stations are and stuff, you don't necessarily have to go searching for very long, and your loot time is pretty much done early as well. I think people tend to overloot for extremely long bits of time, and you don't actually have to as much as you think. Because, I mean, I've pretty much got everything I need. I got my batteries, you know, at that point, you don't have anything much to worry about. I'm gonna go grab myself a Peacekeeper, and then we're pretty much done for the most part. And that's when you can start looking, start scouting. Let's go hit recon. The early teams here are going to potentially fight. That could be us. We could take it slow. Or we could rotate and just kind of go to zones. Let's go and hit this. Just to see if anybody's rotating towards us. Nope. Everyone's kind of stagnant. Still 19 squads remaining. And that's another thing that's really important to really highlight, just how slow the lobbies are. I mean, they're pretty slow. This is PC. I've heard rumors that on console they tend to be pretty fast, comparatively. But, I guess I don't play console, so unfortunately I can't give a lot of context. I'm gonna drop these 2 bats for this person. Alright, but we're ready to rock. We're getting a little lag, surprisingly. I'm not really sure what's that about. So the downside here, a lot of players don't really know where to play. I'm guessing that's going to pull either this side, is my biggest guess, so like holding one of these buildings, anything like that. If nobody would hold this side realistically. That's just not where it's going to pull. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if we were, we would go fight. Our Revenant's kind of pulled for our head, so it looks like we're kind of either getting the materials here or we intend to go fight. Your first rotation should be towards the materials, because having that boost is pretty massive. So that's another great way to predict where teams are at. Kind of a more of a basic to advanced tip, right?
Got a tag on him.
I don't think they're gonna mess with us. Alright, we'll charge this. So 2 teams are fighting there. We can get involved with that. This team seems a little passive. He hit that one, which is pretty far. Let's see here. We could just go and hit this again. Might as well. There's no harm in it. Just extended information. It's probably a little too soon, but might as well. Okay, yeah, the other team is pretty much in it. I think we can go fight that. The reason why we could go fight that is this team is pretty passive. We could get involved here, or we could just rotate, and there's another big pileup that's happening here as well. If your teammates don't really move, I mean, my teammates, one of them was a pred, so sometimes moving at a faster pace is not always ideal either. As long as you're staying with your teammates, staying as a squad and making decisions together, that's always a lot more positive. Alright, and removing. I think we can clean this up. I think this is doable. Alright, so we saw fallback. Moving up. Now again, the whole purpose is we're going to watch to the end, so I am on the main right now, so I don't really care if I lose points or not. On the left side over here.
Got some prey right here.
Oh, they're already ready for us. Ooh, hello. Like, this is an extended fight. There's 2 things. We either leave right now, or we stay and fight and find an opening. Fortunately, it's been a little tricky to find an opening. I was hoping one of them would have peeked this way. I mean, this could go either way. It's kind of one of those pulls that's like it's 50-50 of where this could go. It's just stalled out. Like, one of us has to either wide swing, or we're essentially just waiting for a mistake. But it's taking a really long time, which could pose just a third party. There it is. There's a third party. He also moved at the same time, which is great, kind of. Alright, went down. So you kind of feel at that timing, right? And it's hard. Obviously, we're not in comms, so that makes it tricky. And it's just a really good example of, like, I'm calming and I know, like, where the mistakes are. And what just happened to my game? Did we just crash out? Alright, so the last round I was recording, unfortunately, I ran into a crash. That was really strange. I'm gonna leave in the other footage, by the way, because I felt that the timing and where we got eliminated was a perfect example of, like, you're stalled, why are you committing to the fight, right? And when you're playing as a solo, that's really difficult to get teammates to leave, because nobody really knows who's... It's tough because who makes a decision, who do you follow, and why? When you're playing with a squad already pre-made, it's a lot easier to kind of feel that out. But I thought about it, I was like, do I leave that in? Was that a really good example of where teams like, oh, I got third-partied. And I talk about it a lot, and I had mentioned it several times in the clip. I was like, this is probably we're gonna get third party. This is taking really too long. It's like, how do I know that? Well, it's like you just kind of trust your gut, right? You know the timing, you've been in these lobbies enough, and you know if something isn't happening, the other team is waiting for a mistake. That's all they're waiting for at that point. And that mistake could be simply the luck of the draw, because the other team could have gotten third-partied as well, right? That's something to really keep in mind. What if the other team got third-party, then we could have pushed through and done something, right? That could be the RNG, or what we call random number generation, right? Of how lobbies play out. So how do you remove that? Is by predicting and trying to avoid the RNG aspect of the game. And you're not going to be perfect. I mean, you'll whiff shots, and how can you remove it? Well, you can always land more shots and be more skillful. Sometimes, I mean, these lobbies can be really difficult. And this one is just Plat, so maybe this will be a little different. But for spectating and watching, we will watch to the end of the lobby. I had the intention of doing the other one, but I don't think I remember the last time I've crashed in this game. That was pretty rare. I'm just getting the same guns that I had last round, pretty much. Yeah, let's run with the Nemesis. Let's go around. Nemesis, I think, is quite a sleeper. Let's actually go with the longbow, because there's going to be a scope in the middle. If people don't know... Oh, they already pinged it. Most of the time in the center, there's always snipers in this room. Always. There's certain areas where there's predetermined loot, for the most part, that you always find the same kind of setup. So you see how there's just non-stop snipers here? And usually there's like a 6x or a 4x8. There's a 6x. Wow, it's crazy. 3x. So if you're looking for sites, there's always certain spots that you can look if you don't find it at the current POI, or you'll find it other ones. You'll find this as well in like KC and like those perch towers, because KC is in rotation right now. I was playing it just in ranked yesterday, where you'll guarantee yourself a sniper or something like that. At this point, we're pretty much ready to rock. Remember I had mentioned at this point, okay, well then go for an Evo Harvester. It's probably our best play. Get our armors leveled up as fast as possible. And that's kind of, now you've seen it twice. This is a flow of the lobby early on. This is 100% where you're going to see the most of, is running towards the Evos, and this is where the first bit of engagement could, in theory, happen, and where some of the dog piles do occur. It's like this is where Respawn is essentially forcing some fights, if people are going to fight.
Okay, picked an upgrade. Good work waiting, Echo.
I'm just going to get our full bullets for this. See how they're rotating this way? Makes sense. There we go. I'm a little shaky this morning. How did I lose track of the horizon? Oh, there. I'm a little shaky this morning. I didn't warm up. Is she gone over here? I let her go. Got a nice little knock there, but... Alright, I'm not gonna chase. Otherwise, it'd just be throwing at that point. Horizon wasn't gonna get far, but... So, if we recap what I did incorrectly there, I got a nice knock. I lost track of the horizon, then started focusing over here. I let the horizon go. That's on me. The reason we didn't kill the horizon there is because I let her go. Another team? Okay. There's the opening. I should have landed the shot much sooner. Another. What the heck? It's a whole nother team. See how I mentioned the dog pile? This makes sense why this is happening. Nice, good port. We should get out of this. Like, this is even though I act surprised, it's not surprising at the end of the day, right? Oh god. I was gonna try to key away. Give him a knock. We can spectate afterwards. I 100% would have repositioned and ran away and not chased as much as I did. But hence why we do the spectating series. It's not necessarily about just showing a round full of wins. It's showing the reality and not trying to flex. GG's, GG's. We get to watch now. Perfect. It worked out. It worked out, ladies and gentlemen. Who would ever be so happy to get eliminated this early on? See, we're not seeing necessarily a lot of Seer. I think Lifeline is also a fantastic pick for the squad for great resets. I think people have asked, what about Gibraltar? Well, Gibraltar's also great. Notice how that squad was able to put a dome in and add some protection to slow down the fight a little bit. It's kind of why I was messing with Conduit as well recently to see if Conduit could be a sleeper pick as well. So this Plat lobby is actually going at a much faster pace than the Pred one. But to be fair, we didn't get to watch the whole Pred one out as much. But I feel like the higher level lobbies are going a lot slower, and some of the lower tier are going a little bit faster. This is 11 squads. This is probably one of the fastest lobbies, quote unquote, I've seen. I guarantee we'll see it slow down as we keep watching too, of course. This has been, I feel like this has been really educational. This has been really great. It's also a great reminder even for me. No matter what, it's always good to go back to fundamentals and remember the baseline, right? No matter how good you get, you can never forget fundamentals and how fights are planned when people third party, how fast you need to move. I mean, keep in mind, this is early on, so Plat 2, I mean, these people would have been like masters and stuff last split, especially if they started even a couple days late, you know? Ranking up is a lot slower than it once was. But because of that, let's take a look at the minimap. If we look, it's most likely going to end Rift. Let's see if it pulls towards this upper part of the map. It's not going to end here. It's not going to end over there. It's not going to end over there. I'm guessing this. Let's see if it does that. Ready? This side of the map is what I'm... Oh, yeah, there you go. So now it's just going to pull Rift. It's not going to pull energy. It's not going to pull power grid. It's going to pull somewhere either height rift, this rift, most likely here. So it's like, how am I doing that based on the information? It's like, where does it look like most of the map is pulling towards? And how much is actually out of bounds? Like, it can't pull here because that's like out of bounds, and that wouldn't be a realistic spot. This is kind of out of bounds. This would be kind of unfair because the gate would be too difficult. This is an open field. It kind of has pulled there, but it pulled more up to the height, which is this area. You see how, like, you just kind of reverse engineer it, right? And you do this enough, then you start to notice patterns, and then usually patterns happen for the day. And oddly, I have noticed a trend where they tend to pull the same area consistently. I almost hit Riku, by the way. That's crazy. And I accidentally just smacked my mic, so I apologize for that. But that timing is so important. In the lower tier lobbies, you get a lot more time to kind of choose. I've been seeing a lot of Watsons today, too. That's actually very interesting. Now, my theory of why you would always see more of a Watson and Caustic is to hold the end zones. You need something to kind of hold an end zone to deter from aggressive squads. There's a Pred in this lobby? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like we had mentioned, like, any of these guys Pred? Masters. Yeah, that makes sense. It's Plat 1, but it's still early on in the split. So we saw like a full Pred lobby earlier. And solo queuing, like, I do this on stream, and you kind of have like a lot of bad rounds and you have your good rounds, right? If people ask, well, how bad is solo queue this season and the last one? I think this is probably the hardest it's ever been because people play relatively slower. And because they're playing a lot slower, it's hard to get good coordination with your squad to get to the end zone. And sometimes they kind of get stuck or stagnant. And no matter how good your squad is, even when I was paired with a Pred, it's like, okay, who's moving first? And that doesn't matter your skill level. That's a matter of communication. And that's very difficult. Because essentially you kind of have to have an agreement altogether of who is going to follow who. And that could be done by roles. Now, if you have an Ashe and a Revenant, you essentially have two that are following. Is the Ashe going to follow the Revenant, or the Revenant going to follow the Ashe? Now, naturally, the Wattson has to follow them because the other two have movement, right? So the Revenant's making the entry push here. The Wattson's a little further behind. They got to push, so they're going to push on that. The Wattson's really far behind. So this kind of shows that this could be a duo. Maybe the Ashe and the Revenant are playing together, or just happen to be, you know, really cohesive. But the Wattson's definitely not in comms because, well, we're kind of seeing it firsthand. Oh, that's interesting. This is where Alter becomes really powerful with the fallback. Unfortunately, they didn't fall back very far, and the unfortunate here is that the Wattson just didn't get as involved. And that's where, if you're playing Wattson, you're playing a legend that falls behind, you have to be on top of your entry. You just have to be. Unless you are anchoring a spot for them, then that's kind of where that makes sense where you would fall behind. But the Wattson was checking their backs, which could have been powerful as well, because then they get information for their squad, right? I feel like this is a really good episode. I feel like we haven't talked about a lot of this stuff, and it really comes out in the Spectating series, a lot of this information. I never mind going down points because I know it can gain back pretty easily. I know on Tuesday I'm going to talk about how I kind of failed with the last split. I didn't get to play as much. I was busy with the day job stuff. And that's something important to also highlight. If you're solo queuing and you have a day job, it could be really hard to juggle all of those things together. It's not easy because you are going to run into squads that are not necessarily as good, and you are going to run into a squad that is good, and you got to pretty much just keep playing it out until you're like, okay, that was a good round. I'm going to end for the day, or I'm up for the day, or I got momentum today. I'm playing hot. This is good. Or it took me a little longer to warm up. I mean, you need some warm up rounds. You're not usually just going to come in and just play at your highest level. These are literally done off the cuff. I'm recording this as of today, 9/21 at 1:44 p.m. and you're going to see this video on later on. It's just kind of how it works, you know? I tend to put these together. I mean, this is my off day. I wanted to do this sooner, but my voice was giving me a hard time, and I noticed at night that's whenever I was having more of my coughing issues, so I'm recording this earlier in the day. The Rampage actually might be a sleeper. I'm not a big fan of the Rampage, but for breaching, this Revenant's kind of showcasing that it could have a lot of power. Oh wow, it's kind of scary. Ooh, good push. He's gonna get knocked though, maybe. No? Alter just ran away. Wattson is definitely having a higher pick rate, the higher lobbies. I'm really impressed by that, actually. We've seen a lot of Wattsons. Almost a majority of the squads we've been looking at have had Wattson on them. Wattson's great for resets. Wattson's great for anchoring. Like over Caustic, the power of Caustic is the slows, but the nerf to Caustic I think might have been a little bit too much against him. I think Lifeline provides versatility in terms of creating space as well. This Watson's making up for... Oh, that's so close. Maybe if they kept the shotgun out. That was really close on that Watson's part. Well, this episode's going by so fast, but we also did have the other round a second ago. So here's a Mad Mag. We don't see as much Seer. Even though Seer's at like a 7 or 8% pick rate. But you know, this is probably the most diverse cast that I'm seeing. We've been seeing a lot of Watson, we've seen Gibraltar, we've seen Pathfinder, we've seen Mad Maggie, we're seeing Ashe, we're seeing Alter. I think Ashe and Alter are probably on the higher ups, but you could tell that there's a lot of options here depending on how you want to play with your squad, whether you're playing aggressively or you're playing a little bit more towards zone. And this did end up pulling where we thought it was. It didn't pull it to the upper part, but around this area. I think we had mentioned that. Kind of seeing a bit of a return on Gibraltar. Gibraltar's so good in terms of like, hey, you push, they have to push you. Shotgun meta, Gibraltar, bubble dancing makes sense. Especially having the Peacekeeper be as meta as it is. So bubble dancing important, but that also puts the power with Lifeline as well. So best legends, I mean, you got a lot to select from here. I think that you can outskill your way through even if somebody is not a higher pick rate. Another sleeper would be like Mirage. I think Mirage has a lot of power to counter Seer because his pick rate is pretty high. And Mirage is an extremely flexible legend to fill in holes if needed. Fast res, getting, you know, recon if nobody's running it. You do have a lot of flexibility there. Going to switch to the Pathfinder. The Pathfinder, oh, I thought it was going to shove. The amps also make everything a lot more interesting. I'm really curious to see how this meta shapes up. The 30-30 is not as strong as it was. It's still very good. I think if the 30-30 was the way it was before and they landed one headshot there, I'm pretty sure they would have been eliminated. Top 3. This is definitely one of the fastest lobbies I've seen, but I think it's helpful to see a faster lobby, because I think also you guys have seen a lot of slow lobbies when we've kind of discussed them before. Who's got the most damage of the squad? Let's watch the Pathfinder. 30-30 still popular. G7 Scout. They said longbow maybe not as popular. Uh-oh. There we go. If you guys enjoyed the Spectating series, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all of you guys for watching. It's always good. Be patient with yourselves out there. Ranked is a lot slower. The skill ceiling every single season just gets higher and higher in terms of skill level. R99 I would pick over the car, but the car is definitely flexible due to its ammo type. It's not ruled out per se. But again, that poke with the Peacekeeper is just what's going to be kind of quote-unquote king. Alright, this is the last bit. So we might, once we get to the end here, that'll be kind of the outro for everything. Kind of recap, just some thoughts. Play with your squad. Remember to Get the loadout that you need as quickly as possible. At the start, don't dilly-dally. Stick with your squad. Rotate out. When you get in pinches, you gotta know the timing. The timing of like, oh gosh, we're about to get third-partied, or this is gonna be bad. Legends and their utility. If you're not using your Legends utility, then it might be important to switch. If you're not getting any use out of a Lifeline ultimate, you're not using it enough, then you're not using the utility. It might be better to use something else, right? All of things are impactful. Are you using enough of your Gibraltar bubbles? Did you find you didn't use any Gibraltar bubbles? Then Gibraltar may not be the pick for you. Every little bit of pick is going to be more specific to your team's playstyle and what's actually best for them. So kind of feel it out. There's a lot of flexibility here. In a couple weeks, let's revisit this again and see what has kind of stuck. Because I think what we're seeing right now is everyone's just trying a bit of everything. I've been doing the same thing, kind of switching around between legends. So you saw me play a little Conduit to try to feel out what's good and what's bad, right? Appreciate all of you guys for vibing, hanging out. It really means a whole lot. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.